Hello, and welcome to this episode of Embracing Cultures. I'm Erik Nilsson.
And I'm Zhou.
From the Great Wall to the Forbidden City, from pandas to the Three Gorges, China is home to countless iconic attractions. And now, thanks to recent visa relaxations, these and many other hidden gems are more accessible than ever to international visitors.
China has been continuously refining its visa-free and visa non-arrival policies to make travel easier for visitors around the world. But how have these changes impacted inbound tourism? And more importantly, what role does tourism play in fostering cultural exchanges and people-to-people connections?
To explore these questions, we are joined by three distinguished guests. They are Noelle Sunoy, a social media influencer with over 3 million followers.
And Mr. Zhou Xiaoguang, president of China Odyssey Tours. Welcome.
Thank you. And Andrés Rodríguez, marketing development director at Dragon Trail International.
And thank you for joining us. And in the year 2024, that is last year, China travel became a viral sensation on social media, with countless foreign visitors sharing their experiences in China across various platforms. Erik, I believe you also noticed that trend.
Oh, very, very much so. There is this real surge in these kind of travel vlogs and destination reviews, these deep dives on all kinds of platforms like Instagram and TikTok and YouTube, and a lot of this kind of viral content coming out about Chinese cuisine and traditions and landscapes. And it got a lot of global attention. It really did. And it really made China one of the most talked about country destinations of the year.
Mm-hmm. And I want to start by asking Noelle. I know you have traveled extensively here in China. Can you tell us, which place left the biggest impression on you and why?
Yes, I think the place that left the biggest impression on me was Lhasa in Xizang. I think because I'm living in Beijing, right? And China's big is enormous. So when you arrive to Xizang is when you realize how big is this country, because cultures and languages can be very different, but at the same time they are united on one. And Lhasa is one of the places that I would love to go back.
What about you, Andrés?
For me, definitely the first time I visited the Great Wall was unique. It was around when I was 21 years old. I will never forget that first visit and finally being there in person.
Mm-hmm. You're a hero.
That was the feeling. Definitely one I will never forget. We talk about off the beaten track. Of course, it's definitely my trip to Gansu. I did it with my son when he was around 3-4 years old. It was just the two of us, and we were wonderfully surprised by the beauties of Changye, like the colorful
Changye.
And the little town of Xiahe, like a little piece of Tibet in Gansu province, quite unique.
Mm-hmm. Right, Gansu province has all the natural wonders you can imagine.
Yes.
Actually, it has diverse landscapes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I have a question for all of you, including Erik, because I'm a Chinese national, and I'm wondering, compared with other destination countries, what is China's unique appeal that draws international visitors?
Yeah, well, every year we see a lot of foreign tourists traveling to China. They come here for the beautiful landscape. For example, like in Guilin, where I'm from, Huangshan, and the Zhangjiajie with the high mountains, beautiful views. And also people come here to see the historical sites. For example, in Beijing, we have Forbidden City, we have Great Wall, and in Xi'an, terracotta warriors, blah, blah, blah. And also in China, because there are so many different minority groups, so people here, they come here to enjoy the different culture of these different people. For example, I noticed that, Erik, while you paid a visit to one of the minority village in probably in Yunnan or in Guizhou, You have
visited dozens by this point throughout the country. Yeah.
I noticed that when you actually had this 高山流水, what do we call it? High mountain with flowing water, which means that what a group of girls keep serving you with all their homemade wine. Yeah.
That was in Guizhou. Yeah.
He enjoyed it so much.
Exactly, definitely. So I would say this can be another very good attraction for foreigners coming to China. But I would say that we say in the industry, the best scenery is the people. So I would say for a foreigner coming to China, they can enjoy not only the beautiful view, the rich culture, the old history and everything, but to meet the Chinese people in different places, that will be a very different experience.
I really agree. I have to agree a lot with that. For example, 2 months ago, maybe 1 month ago, my mom and my brother came to China for the first time. And you know, China is huge, and it's really hard in 2 weeks to give a real hint of what the whole country is. But what they brought home was people. The people they met in here, how they were treated in here, the food, the different experiences they had in different cities like Beijing and Shanghai. And I think that is the core of the whole country, right? Maybe you cannot get to know the whole country as it is, but if you get closer to the people, you will go back with a lot of good memories.
Yeah. Chinese people are generally very hospitable, very friendly.
Yeah.
They're always waiting to help.
I have to name three. The local scenery is quite unique in many areas. Nature, especially. I'm a nature lover, adventure lover, and China has a few that are one of this kind. I mentioned Trangye, but I can go on. I remember I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but Yuanyang in the south of Yunnan province, almost in the border. Those rice
Yuanyang.
Yuanyang that look
okay.
like a mirror.
Oh,
I've never seen that.
I've never been there before.
You should go. I recommend you. And then I could go with the people, the diversity, because some misconception was like, oh, China looks all the same in terms of people. How rich is China in terms of people? You go to Yunnan, in Guizhou, and just in the same. I mean, we can compare like the personality of the people from the south with those from the north is totally different. Once you get to know better the country, the culture, you cannot stop falling in love with this country, certainly. So I agree with the rest. People, scenery, and my third one is of course the cuisine. 8 cuisines to explore, and you can go on and on and on, and it's finally getting international recognition. If you go on a Sunday to Chinatown, Milan, at lunchtime, you have to queue up for 20-30 minutes to get a jianping in your hands.
煎饼, the
Jianping.
pancake, Chinese pancake.
Yes. Or a rojamo. Yeah. 20-30 minutes queue.
嗯
All Italians waiting to put their hands in
Italy,
in Italy,
which
in
is
Milan,
also
in
home
Milan.
to like
Yeah.
great cuisine.
There you go. That's why I wanted to make this comparison because, well,
Mhm.
Italy has nothing to envy in China also in their cuisine. Totally different one, but very rich.
Yeah, if you're a food lover, like China is really the paradise.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I love spicy, so
Sichuan hot pot then.
Sichuan hot pot and also Hunan cuisine.
All
Yeah.
very spicy. And
Yeah,
China
yeah,
has
very
like 8 major cuisines, right?
yes.
Regional cuisines.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I've worked as a travel editor for many, many years. I've traveled over 30 countries, over 100 international trips, and I've traveled through every province in China, most of them several times or many, many times. The thing that I think that China stands out among all the countries as a destination, there's a few. One is you have this unique intersection of diversity as well as one of a kindness. And so in the north, you have ice festivals. In the south, you got tropical island. And in between, you have mountains, deserts, plateaus, grasslands. Through the food, you can eat a different Chinese dish every day, every meal for the rest of your life. You'll never repeat, and you'll barely scratch the surface. Going again to the people, you know, and it's a cliche for a good reason that, you know, it's the people. There's many countries with very friendly people, but one thing about China is if you're an international traveler here and you look the slightest bit lost or confused, people are going to go way out of their way to help you. Strangers will. When I go out and eat at a restaurant in the provinces with my family while traveling on a holiday, for instance, I usually end that meal at somebody else's table because some strangers, usually some older middle-aged men, will have called me over to chat and to drink. That's actually how I met my gandia, like my Chinese godfather. And beyond that too, I'd say also, it's a cliche for a good reason. You have this good mix of the ancient and the futuristic, frankly. So even the very hotel that we're in right now is a good blend, I think, of the kind of traditional aesthetic, as well as all the contemporary comforts you'd want. I mean, I recommend it to anybody who came to visit, for instance.
Right. The hotel we're in right now is more than just a hotel. It's actually a historic building, and it is designed by the famous Chinese architect Liang Sicheng. And when you walk in, I don't know if you've noticed it, that when you walk into this hotel, you can see that there is a big Chinese-style courtyard in the middle, which is quite refreshing, I think, especially in the summer. So, and since its opening in 1954, it has received quite a good number of international dignitaries and foreign national leaders.
Mr. Zhou, then would you say that the visa-free policies, how have they contributed to the increase in inbound tourism? Do you have any kind of statistics or figures also that could help highlight that?
Yes, well, the visa-free policy is absolutely a great boost for the inbound business. And actually, for the past few years, the whole industry was discussing the pain points of the inbound business, and we kept discussing how can we increase the number of foreign travelers coming to China. And we came to a conclusion that probably one of the biggest difficulty is visa. Because years ago, for a foreigner coming to China, they have to spend a lot of time preparing all the forms, and also it took a long time for them to apply and finally get the visa from the embassy or consulate. And we had a wish in our heart that, if someday in the future that our customers, if they can travel to China freely, just by buying an air ticket with their passport, they can go to China as well as they like. So this is a kind of dream, but actually finally it came to true. Yes, absolutely. So there's now there are 30. China has issued free visa policy to 38 countries, and so for these people, they can stay about 30 days here in China free, and they can travel to most of the parts of China freely. And so from the industry, we can see a significant increase of the number of the international arrivals. For example, last year, we saw about 6 times of that of the year before. So, which means that it was a really big increase.
So you have witnessed like 6 times, the figure is 6 times. I mean, compared with 2023,
Exactly.
That's a big increase.
Exactly.
Do you have statistics as to like which regions grows the fastest, like countries or regions?
Yeah.
Do you have numbers regarding that?
Yeah. So we can see clearly that the countries, what we call the source countries, and it increased very fast, including Southeastern Asian countries, for example, like Singapore, Malaysia, that's nearby countries, and particularly some European countries, for example, like Italy and Spain.
Spain, yeah.
Yes,
I
absolutely.
read a piece of news reporting that Spanish visitors is really on the rise right now.
Absolutely. So now we feel very short of Spanish and Italian-speaking tour guides all over in China, in Beijing, Shanghai, in Guilin. Oh yes. Yeah. And if you choose to work as a tour guide in these places, I can assure you that you will have a very healthy income.
I think not of that.
Yes. Coming next is French and German. and France and Germany, and they're coming very fast, particularly this year. This year, we'll be going to see more tourists from these two countries, and people also from Australia and New Zealand, because the Chinese government issued visa-free policy only last year. So those people were coming to China probably in this year.
Oh, so the number will be even better this year. Mm-hmm.
So, Noel, again, we're talking about the number of Spanish visitors has increased, and I'd say probably Europe at large. But what have you seen in terms of this? So we've got the statistics, but what have you observed in terms of this actually taking place?
Well, I've observed a lot. First of all, I would like to say that after the visa-free entries, I've seen lots of my friends, including my family, coming to China. Taking the flight from Spain, and they just text me and they're like, I'm going to Beijing and I just want you to show me around. And they're really interested because people has always been interested in this country. It was just harder to get here. And now that it's easier, I feel like there is no barrier anymore. So for them, it's very comfortable just to hop on a plane and to come to China and just to see around.
And what is their feedback? Is China the same as they imagined or they read on a textbook?
I think that's a pretty tricky question, because I think we all have seen some media talking about weird stuff. Let's put it that way. And people, when arrives here and sees the reality of China, they feel that it's not what they were expecting. For example, my mom, of course, we're talking about an almost 60 years old person. She went to Thailand 30 years ago, okay? And the image she had about China was similar to what she saw in Thailand. And after she arrived in China, we were in Beijing, Shanghai, and Suzhou. And she was amazed about all the things that she was doing, because she wasn't expecting to see the buildings in Shanghai, to see the Forbidden City with the civic center. After that, the tradition and the modernism of the country, it's really stunning. And it's something that lots of people doesn't know that exists here in China. We expect that maybe from developed countries, maybe from the States, or maybe even not from the States, but you get to see that in here.
Yes, and that's the whole meaning of travel.
Yeah.
You can experience things firsthand, and you get this authentic experience, right?
I was thinking about what Nell said about that idea of China that we see for friends and relatives visiting the country. I also work in inbound before, so also former clients, let's say, and only when they visit the old town of Pingyao,
Shanxi province.
Exactly, in Shanxi province. Okay, this is the China I was imagining in my mind. This is what I thought it was. And then they see all the development, and also that China for me is a land of contrasts. So you can see the old Huton in Beijing, and then next to it you have the area of Komao full of skyscrapers, and how they combine together in harmony. It's definitely quite unique.
Right.
Do you mind if I add something?
Yeah, of course.
Because what you just said is something that my mom said in Qianmen Dajie. When we arrived in Qianmen Dajie in Beijing, she was like, okay, this is what I was expecting. But we came from the band in Shanghai, She was seeing all those skyscrapers and all the lightings, and then she arrived in Qianmen, she was like, okay, this was China for me.
Okay.
I wasn't expecting that there.
So that's also a kind of stereotype that is being portrayed in international media. And people who haven't come to China, they would think that China is this ancient country with this old civilization, but China is definitely more than that.
Yes.
And I'm also wondering that because you have the statistics and you have the industry insiders perspective, do people from different countries or regions have distinct preferences when they come to visit China?
Yes, well, absolutely. It depends on where they are from. And we found that, different people from different countries, they have their own preferences while they're traveling in China. And even if, for example, English-speaking people, they're quite different. For example, Americans and British. Americans, usually they are how should I say? Well, they are looking for comfort, and many of them, they are maybe even looking for luxury experience. And compared with Europeans, they are a little bit not that active, okay? But for Europeans, for example, like British people, they like to cycle a lot, and they would like to stay not like Americans. Americans would like prefer to stay in international brands, JW Marriott, Shangri-La, Hilton. But for British people, they don't mind stay in a small boutique hotel, but with some history. So exactly. So when I first get into this hotel, I found, oh wow, it's probably one of the best place for my British clients. But I would not recommend this to Americans. Americans would say, oh, where's the swimming pool? Where's the gym? And where's a big bar? And so I would say that, well, people are different. And also, when we are talking about the Southeast Asian countries, and these people, while they are traveling to China, they usually spend their time in one certain place. So it's different from Europeans and Americans. For example, like people from Malaysia, if they come to China, they will say, okay, so I will spend a whole week, say, in Sichuan province or in Guilin, and I will not...
In-depth tour.
In-depth tour, exactly. And they will go just in this certain area. But for the what we call long-haul travelers, and they would like to cover different places, Beijing, Xi'an, Shanghai, or Guilin.
Those iconic cities, right?
Yes.
Because they come from far away place, and right, it takes them a long time to come here, so they have to see everything.
They try to cover as much as they can. Yes.
In the last 4-6 weeks, when there was that sweet exchange, especially between Americans and Chinese, when TikTok got blocked, and there is a red note,
right?
The Xiaohongshu.
Yes, Xiaohongshu. Yeah.
If you check the conversations that there was for a couple of weeks, but it was so sweet to see like that curiosity that you have, what you guys did. Is it true this? Is it really true? Is not? And then this exchange of mutual curiosity that will help you to break down those stereotypes. And this also kind of travel. And this is what you're looking when you finally get to
I still remember that when there are a lot of international friends logging on Red Xiaohongshu, and I remember they'll
call them refugees.
Right, refugees, and suddenly we have a lot of international relatives.
Yeah.
Right. Yes.
Colony.
Yeah, colony. Right, that's true. I think people from different regions, they have different lifestyle choices and they have different cultural tastes. That's why they are, they prefer different things when they travel. And I'm also wondering that does this visa-free policy or the easier visa policies have any influence on people's willingness to explore those lesser-known parts of China? Because when we speak of China, we often say Beijing, Shanghai, and Forbidden City, right, and the Great Wall. But what about those lesser-known parts of China?
Yes, well, we noticed that there was a very interesting change compared with the years before. Years before, the international tourists coming to China, they would like to cover the iconic cities like Beijing, Xi'an, Shanghai very much. And very few of them would go to the inner land of China. And but now, I would say after the restart of this inbound business, and we could see that lots of our clients, they spend their time to get into places where they are not that much touched by the international tourists before. For example, like Gansu or Nanjing or Hangzhou, and even to places like Shantou, Yangzhou. So when we received the bookings in our hand, we said, oh, how come that, well, the people, they would like to go to these cities instead of the big places like Zhangjiajie or Chengdu or Xi'an. So this is a very interesting change. And the reason behind is probably because some of the clients, they have been to China before. and this is their second time. That's one of the reasons. And the second is that because just now we talk about the Xiaohongshu or TikTok, this social media, and it has greatly give a lot of the information to the outside world. So people become to know some very interesting places in China. They discover more all these places. So this is a nice change. Yeah.
Well, I think I can exemplify a little bit what you just said, because from my own experience with my friends coming to China, what I've got to see is that China is not a one-time experience. Because, for example, I had a friend that came from Ireland. She was in China just for 5 days. She came all the way from Ireland and just couldn't stay in Beijing for 5 days. And when we separated at the airport, she was like, okay, next time we can go to Xi'an. And she came with that idea all by herself without she knowing what is Xi'an or where was it before coming to China. And I think that is like the beauty, because you've been once, and once you've seen the mainstream cities, you go back and you keep checking stuff in the magic of social media. And then you want to go back because there's a lot of more things to experience in China. So I think, yeah, there's like this kind of wanting to explore the unexplored.
I can tell you one example. I have a very good friend. By the way, I love cycling. Myself as well.
Yeah.
So he decided to come for the first time in China from Italian. From the first time in China. And he was curious. It was at the time when it still was visa exemption, but just for 15 days for Italian passport holders. And he decided to do 2 days in Beijing and all the rest 12 days in Yunnan. And I asked out of curiosity, like, why? Okay, not just Beijing. You hit the wall. You just did the wall. You came to the city center, and then you spend the rest in Yunnan. So like, come on, it's quite unique. I've never seen something like this. So like, yeah, I say, I would like to see more travelers like you, because I would do the same.
Right.
Actually, I did. In my very first trip to China, the first province I visited was. Actually, first I visited Guilin and Yanshuo, and then I went to Yunnan. But I also like, okay, that's very interesting. Like you say, like I want to see one of the highlights, but then all the rest I want to see something that I've never seen before and is quite unique, no matter where. I go.
And China is so big, and the cultures are so different from region to region, province to province.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things I've been doing for a few years now is working on a travel book called Off the Wall, as in the Great Wall. Off the Wall, offbeat, and off the beaten path China travel. Because again, the Great Wall is great, the Grand Canal is grand. But where do you go in China to ride an ostrich? The answer is Zhou. Where do you go in China where you can walk out on a beach and they dance to club music, and the dancing, the vibrations causes these shellfish to come up. You scoop those up, you get into a donkey-drawn cart, go off and boil and eat them. That's in Nantong, Jiangsu.
Oh, no. Whoa.
So you're the...
Yeah, I've never heard of that before.
Well, you know, where could you go with to meet like an ethnic Kazakh nomad? He rides a horse to go take you hunting with golden eagles to catch, you know, rabbits and foxes. That's an Ili, Joel. Everybody knows the Temple of Heaven, but not that many people know the Temple of Hell, which is one of my very favorite places, actually.
Where's it?
Yeah, where is it?
It's walking distance from the Temple of Heaven, a long walk. It's in Beijing. Yeah. So these sorts of places, I'm hoping that what happens is the policy means that more people will come, they'll do these classic itineraries, like you say, and then they're going to keep going deeper to find these lesser known sort of gems.
And I believe you just have given, like Mr. Zhou, like an inspiration, like how to craft their travel products.
Right.
I mean, the wild tours you just mentioned, right?
Yeah, so, you know, when you are talking again about how a lot of people during their first visit tend to do the classics, then when they come back, they tend to do something a bit more unique, kind of special. What are some of these sort of more kind of specialized tours that people like to do? Things, you know, like hiking, like hot springs, like, you know, fairly unusual sort of cultural experiences.
Yes. Well, designing an appropriate product is one of our most important tasks. And so in this way, we need to figure out two things. One is what the clients need. And so we will look into the background of our clients, where they're from, and how much time they will spend here in China, and what is their roughly how much money they would like to spend here, what kind of category hotels they would like to going to stay, and what kind of activities they would like to try. And so this is something that we need to know very clearly from the clients, okay? And the second is that we need to look at what we have. And for example, like we are very cautious to promote some places where we don't have really good English-speaking guides, let alone Spanish or Italian, okay? So yeah, so you have to be very careful. Otherwise, well, clients will go there, arrive there, and without anyone to provide a guide service. So and the hotels, some places are very beautiful, and but it's a little bit off the beaten path, and there's not good facilities of hotels. So we need to be very careful. And the tour guides, the vehicles, the hotels, the restaurants, and everything. So you put all the things together, then we come out with the right product for the clients.
So, you have worked for a long time in marketing for inbound tourism in China. What would you say then that a lot of the destinations could do to better market themselves, especially in the digital sense and particularly within the context of the visa relaxation?
Well, absolutely. First, I would say communicate the big news. So it will be, of course, using the main digital platforms, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. Then with specific tracking, adding those pixels and adding those groups, you can identify your demographics. So as I say, we divided by age groups or travel preferences, adventure travel, cultural and history buffs. You can now reach them digitally and have very rich data about them, about their preference, and even when it's potentially the right time they're planning to visit a destination. Everyone knows, at least in Europe, it's commonly known that China is very ultra digitalized. So how can I run those payments? Now, even for the Beijing subway, you just need your Visa, your MasterCard, and you can access the subway.
Yeah.
It's improving, but that needs to be extensively communicated.
You have to convey the message.
Exactly, convey the message. It's not as hard as you think, and we understand it was harder before, but things are evolving, things are changing. And now, even in Iran, you can have the same facilities, the same easiness of travel as the locals have. I would say those are the main ones. Then, creativity and storytelling are definitely a must. Once you have this information, tell stories. We love stories. We want to know the real thing, not just something scripted, something real that comes from a family that has been living on the wall and you visit the Great Wall, or someone who comes from a historian who has been going for several times to the wall, and then they can give you stories not just about the context, not just about the history, but also context on what is going on and how it has been evolving and changing. So those I would say are the mains. And then the combination of both. Everyone wants to visit the landmarks, that's definitely part of the bucket list, but also introducing more sections, more parts that China has to offer, especially as I say I already mentioned, festivals, cuisine, and cultural events are definitely a must.
Event promotion.
And now events as well. For instance, my friend that I mentioned, this Italian friend who came, who loves bicycles, how did he know about Yunnan? Also because there's a very famous among cyclists event called the Yunnan Gran Fondo that is for cyclists and is gaining more and more popularity abroad. So also events are helping to get more recognition for one specific destination.
Exactly. And also like social media influencers like wow, very, very important because they're like grassroots promoters of a certain place. And Noel, which part of Chinese culture, I mean, based on your experience, and which side of Chinese culture do you think is the worthiest of presenting to international audience? What kind of stories? Lots. That's a very big. I know.
But for example, we were talking about people just a moment ago, and I've realized that when I publish any video related to Chinese people, is when they get the more engagement international social media platforms, because most of the people, if they come to China, maybe they cannot speak Chinese, and we don't expect anybody here to speak English to us. So it's like you're here, but sometimes you cannot get closer enough to get to know them. But sometimes they can rely on me and my conversations with Chinese people to get to know better people in here. And I've realized, for example, that are some Spanish influencers, like really big ones, that came to China just when they opened like all visa-free stuff. And what they were complaining the most is like, I'm here with this person in front of me. We cannot communicate. I would love to communicate because they're being so friendly that I want to have better communication and to get to know them better. Sometimes like they went to like a McDonald's because like I was recording a video, like differences between Spanish McDonald's and Chinese McDonald's, which is not a big difference. And he was talking to the staff, and the staff took up the phone and they were translating to Chinese to Spanish and like to order. And I think this is like the kind of things that people want to see better. For example, my conversations with my neighbors. I'm really good friends with a neighbor that's 73 years old. And that's really special for people that has never been to China or that wants to know better in this country, because it's like an older woman. She has a lot of stories to tell about China, about Beijing, about the whole development of the country.
Mr. Zhou, I'd also like to ask too. So, to get more people here, then the visa, huge thing, obviously. But what are some of the other initiatives that you have seen are being made right now to make it easier for people come here, and once they are here, things that, such as digital tools, such as the mobile payments? And what areas would you say there's been some improvement recently? And where would you say, kind of going back to a point a moment ago, there's still room for more improvement?
Well, the industry, not only the industry, but also the government has done a lot trying to improve the conveniences for the foreign tourists coming to China. For example, like the payment. Actually, we can see that in China now there are lots of the hotels who they restart to use machines that you can use their credit cards for the people. We can also see that these some of the English speaking signs and other language signs on different in different scenic spots, and this greatly help the foreign tourists coming to China. And also, there's a lot of other jobs to down to the to improve the experience of the clients. For example, like for foreigners, while they are buying tickets going to some scenic spots, for example, like the Forbidden City or Terracotta Warriors, it's very popular and it's really hard for you to get a ticket. But now it's the government is trying to do something to it so that, for example, if you are holding a passport and you can easily get a ticket in the Forbidden City or Terracotta Warriors and other places.
Online or on site?
On site. On site.
Which
yes.
is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a big difference.
Yes.
Yeah. On site. You can just walk there and you buy by yourself. Yeah. There's no restrictions at all. But I don't mean all of the very hot places, but I would say more and more scenic spots. They are trying to apply these policies. And so this is a great improvement. And also, I would say that, the government is trying to spend more on the training of foreign-speaking tour guides and sales and marketing people in the universities and colleges. That's something I can see.
Andre, going back also to another point, we were talking a little bit ago about using technology. And so, for instance, we were talking about translation, speaking to people, and how sometimes you need to use certain apps for that. Yeah. That's been very helpful to a lot of people. How would you say then that a lot of the digital tools that are available in China, especially like AI, such as DeepSeek, make it easier for people to have a better time during their China trips?
Perfect. I think now, thanks to AI technologies, if I need simultaneous translation, I go to my AI platform. I'm visiting a cultural historical spot and I want to have insights about this site that I'm visiting. Let's say the Forbidden City, or let's go around the Tiananmen Square or Tiananmen. I want to have some historical background on it. I can go to DeepSeek to search about it. Then also about real-time maps. There's a platform called, I think it's Lila. As a AI trip planner. So that gives you in real time the available flights, the maps, the local connections. So when you're commuting, if you want to go by cab, by subway, let's say applying to China, it could be also like a way to concentrate the local services. With the same app, maybe I can also do some ride hailing on Didi or taking a sharing bike. The more I can live like a local, the more I will love this place and I will feel like I'm really exploring the culture, considering the limited time I have visiting every single spot. And AI is accelerating this process and democratizing this to everyone, because you don't need to spend millions. And especially like Dixit, that is open to everyone. It's it's giving these advantages.
Yeah, I read from the news that some people are using DeepSeek to make travel plans for them, like a 3-day trip to Xi'an.
Yeah.
Like which restaurants to recommend.
And it gives you everything.
I think like platforms like DeepSeek, they can really act like a tour guide or agency sometimes.
Or you're just your personal agent.
Yes, right, personal assistant. Assistant, but for agency, we will definitely go to travel agencies like Mr. Zhou. Right, you'll never be replaced.
I would say that, well, this new technology can, well, from my point of view, it can never replace human beings. All right. So you can use an app to make an easy translation by asking something from, even if you don't speak Chinese. But you can get an itinerary from the app very easily. But still, you need to get into the people. You need to talk with the people, and you know what they're really thinking, all the things. And so this exchange is more important. I would say this is something that can never be replaced by any of the technology.
The interaction between
exactly.
people, right?
Yes.
And after talking about so many like practical issues regarding like traveling here in China, what about the cultural side of things? Like, Noel, have you encountered any cultural differences in China that have led to some funny or interesting experiences, like cultural shock?
Well, in my experience, I've been here for 6 years, so now China for me is more like Spain. Like, I don't feel difference anymore, but I remember when I arrived, I met this 73-year-old woman, and she was my upstairs neighbor. And somehow we created a really fast, a good connection. And she was taking care of me, like if I was her grandson. She was like even bringing food to my house to share food with me during like the Spring Festival or Yuanxiaojie. I don't know how to say it in English.
Lantern Festival.
The Lantern Festival, thank you very much. So I think for me, that was pretty of a cultural shock because I wasn't expecting to find somebody that close and at the same time that different. I think that's something I cannot get in Spain if it's not with my grandmother. So, but from another perspective, we were talking about technology, and I would like to point out, like, for example, my mom and my brother, that they came here, they were shocked by how technology is part of like daily life in China. I think that's also part of the culture because people and culture are like daily life, right? So,
and cashless payment.
The cashless payment was something that they were expecting because I was telling them that since the first time I arrived in China. But we were in a hotel in Shanghai and we ordered something. And then it came a really cute robot to send the food. And my mom opened the door and she was like, how do I do this? Like, you know, like, what's this? What's going on? And then I showed her, like, she took the screen, he took out the meal, and then the robot left. And my mom closed the door and she came back to me and she was like, can we order something more? I want just order one back.
I want the robot back.
Yeah, I want the robot back. And at the next day, before we leaving the hotel, she took a picture with the robot. I think that is also a cultural difference because we're living in here and we're used to that. We see robots, we see technology everywhere. But for my mom that came from Spain, she was like shocked to see how technology is in our daily life in here.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know if call it a culture shock, but I will always admire, and I'm sure I'm not the only one, how active and full of energy our elders here
Oh, yeah. The
Kansas.
square
And
dance.
so, yeah, the square dance. I mean, they do the crazy calisthenics when they're in the local park, and they're like, wow, just full of energy. And then it just, especially if you're on early bird, you go 6:30, and it's just the best time in the day to go to. Oh, is the park is Jinshan Park, the one that is facing
Jinshan
the
Park,
Jinshan Park.
Jinshan Hill.
Yeah, you see all of them. I remember going for my first time a few years ago and see guys playing different instruments, singing, dancing, doing some sports, and all on their 60s, 70s, or even above. It's incredible how energetic, full of energy and life are people here in locals. And I'm sure, as I say, I'm not the only one who has this incredible feeling and say like, wow, they really know
How to live, yes.
to the fullest in their last, let's say, quarter of your life.
Right. And what tips would you give to first-time travelers to China to make their travel smoother?
Definitely first, just you should plan, but you should also let it go.
Go with the flow.
Go with the
Yeah,
flow. Let's call it go
yes.
with the flow because there might be some unexpected changes that you have to do. So you just need, and also to listen, be able, like, because China, as I said, well, in travel, not only China, but in different countries, when you travel international, you see that something is what you read and something is what you see with your eyes. So I know I have been saying that a lot, but I want to emphasize this point. I never stop being curious. I mean, this is happening more and more. And one thing, don't forget about the highlights, but yeah, maybe even visit the highlights in a different way. You go to the Great Wall. Why Badaling or Mutianyu when you can go to Jiankou? There are many other areas that offer you a more unique experience. Or if you go to Chengdu, okay, you want to visit the pandas, beautiful, but you can also go play a Magian in the local park, or you can go to Shanghai, go out and see the marriage market that you see in the local parks. So
keep an open mind.
Keep an open mind. You say better than me. Keep an open mind and be curious.
And enjoy.
Okay, so I would say if a client coming to China, I would say you can spend some time to really look into Chinese people's life, in addition to the sightseeing programs. The parks, good. The museum, yes. But I would say that, well, if you have an opportunity to spend some of your time, go to the local market to see what kind of the food Chinese are preparing for their daily life. Or if you have another chance that you can maybe learn some Chinese cooking with some Chinese housewives, so that you know how come that, well, the Chinese food can be so delicious. All right. And particularly if you can have an opportunity to pay a visit to a Chinese family, to know their daily life, how many members, and what their concept for education on their children, and what are their expectations for their future life. So this can be very interesting. You know, when I was a tour guide 30 years ago, I found that, well, my clients would like to skip some of the parks and the scenic spots. They would say because, well, before they left for next stop, they would say, "Hi, Michael, I still have some time, and could you please show me some places that is so very different and interesting?" I would say, okay, so maybe I will show you to a local farmer's family. So I took them to the farmer's family, and so the clients, they will know that how many pigs the farmers raise, and how many orange trees, and what sidelines could provide them with an extra income, and why their kids move to the big cities to have a job, to work there, and so how can they find their girlfriends or boyfriends? So all these things are very I would say it's more another side of knowing this country, knowing these people, and I would say there's another meaning for traveling to China.
The real life of people.
Yes.
Sounds like they need like homestay.
Right. Yes, we did that.
Homestay experience.
Right. Yes. We did that. Well, we actually there's a couple from the U.S. and we didn't arrange a hotel. We discussed with them before they came to China. We said, okay, so we give you another choice. One is that of course, you can stay in the hotel. The other one is you stay in the home of one of my staff, and you get up early in the morning. You go to the local market. You shop around like the housewives, and then coming back, and then you get down to the square, and then you square dance with the local people, and then come back again and start cooking. And they spent 2 nights there, and they came back with great satisfaction. They think that this is the right way for me to know the Chinese people. Yes. So, and another very interesting thing is that we noticed that our clients, they would like to spend some time to pay a visit to places, for example, kindergartens, schools, and they would like to talk with the students in China. And for example, they like to attend an English-speaking course, and they would like to know the students what kind of subjects they are learning. And in the kindergartens, and they would like to talk with the teachers what kind of songs they would like to teach to the children, and what kind of food they eat every day. So this can be another, I would say it's quite untraditional sightseeing programs, but it's also interesting. Yeah.
It's the most interesting part and the most meaningful part.
Exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And well, you just had your family out. What would be some tips you would give to somebody if they were going to be coming to China for the first time?
Well, there's some tips that I usually give to people. And I usually say, like, leave your stereotypes at home. Because we have stereotypes about places all over the world. And if you arrive to China bringing your stereotypes, you will lose a great part of the trip. Because stereotypes can blind you. It's better to leave them at home and to experience what you have in front of yourself. And there's another tip. Download an English map. Yeah. Now, yes, because most maps in China are in Chinese. There's one now, I think it's called A Maps. Yeah, Gaoda Titu. Yeah, that's in English. So get yourself an English map if you don't want to get lost.
Okay. That's very, very important, very useful.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Although sometimes getting lost can be fun.
Yeah,
And very insightful, that I have to say, very much so.
Don't get the map.
Enjoy getting lost.
Yes.
And so I guess the most important kind of takeaway from the whole conversation today is this idea: how then can travel act as a catalyst to help people understand each other better?
Cultural exchange, people-to-people connections. Actually, we really talked a lot about this, but can you summarize it? Summarize your answers in 2 or 3 sentences?
Yeah, I think getting in touch with people is the best way. But, getting in touch with people is not just going to somebody's house. If you go to a restaurant and talk to the waitress, you're already in touch with the culture and with the person. You're getting an idea of what's going on with their social life. So I don't really think you have to force any kind of communication. Of course, if you have that experience, is going to be better because you're inside of daily life. You get to see how they live in there. But if you don't have the resources, just coming here, getting in touch with the people that you see and being respectful to them and being respected by them, I think that's enough for most of the people in this world to make friends with each other.
Right.
Well, China is so vast. I would say that only a week or 10 days visit is far from enough.
No.
And China was a second, a third, and many times visiting. And so that's one. And the second is that I believe that traveling helps to bridging the gap and clear the misunderstandings. So I strongly propose that in the future that our clients would come here to China, visiting the beautiful places and get into Chinese people, get in touch with Chinese people.
I think I will agree with you. I don't think there's much to add. Explore the culture. I mean, as a catalyst, real catalyst is get as much as you can get out of your comfort zone. The only fact that you're already deciding to come here is already a big step forward, but continue having that spirit. Talk more to the locals, find a way. Now, as I mentioned, there's AI tools that will help you to have a mutual conversations.
Travel can like break stereotypes, broaden your perspectives, and foster like appreciation for cultural diversity. That's the whole point of traveling for all of us. Like
American writer Mark Twain said, traveling is fatal for prejudice, bigotry, and narrow-mindedness. And it applies. It's the truth.
Yeah, it's a cure for all these diseases.
Exactly.
In my company, there was a proverb posted on the wall. The world is a book. Those who do not travel read only one page.
Oh, wow. I should put it on my wall at home.
You know, I would say I traveled to so many countries, but 20 years ago, I traveled to China, and I liked it so much, I decided to move in.
Wow.
And live here permanently.
Yeah.
Yeah, and is there like, okay. Thank you so much for joining us today. We really have learned a lot. It's really an insightful conversation and very engaging, I think, for our audience. Thank you so much for coming to our show. Thank you.